All right, greetings and salutations, everyone. My name is Andrew Kirchhoff. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Over the course of the next hour and a half prior to the Kansas City versus Las Vegas Raiders game on Saturday. Again, interesting that they wanted to have two Saturday games for Week 18. Either way, we'll enjoy it, another day of football. But over the course of the next hour and a half, I'm going to be answering your guys' questions in regards to Week 18 rankings. Again, you can see to the right side of the screen, we have updated rankings at all four primary positions, top 36 running backs, top 36 wide receivers, along with top 16 tight ends and quarterbacks. As of updated, probably I'd say, 30 minutes ago. So hopefully the information on screen, even though it may differ from earlier in the week's rankings, it's a little bit more accurate based on some of the information that we have been privy to over the course of, some of these coaches giving us a little bit of a heads up as to where they're kind of leaning in the direction of. As you'll probably find out by looking at the rankings on screen, I have no New York Giants on the screen. The expectation is that Brian Daboll is going to hold out majority of his starters, which will probably include guys like Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley. Even if they do play, it'll probably be a quarter until they're pulled. They don't really need to play that game, and the expectation from everything that I've read is that they're most likely going to sit everyone. On top of that, we also have another team like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are most likely going to be in a situation where, again, win or lose, it does not matter. They're most likely going to be probably sitting their starters come the second half of that game. There is value to be had from, Godwin and Mike Evans. That's why I have them ranked at 35 and 6 in a half PPR scoring format. But it's not enough to guarantee that they'd be better than a lot of these other players, especially if they're only going to play half of the game. And you don't even know. I mean, like there may be a chance that, yes, they get yardage, but the touchdown doesn't accompany their performance. And unfortunately, they may not be, a better play than a lot of these other circumstances and or opportunities that, some of these players have. Okay. Either way, let's go ahead. Let's answer some questions. Again, if you're going to type in a question in the chat, send one in. Doesn't really matter. I'm here to help. Just be sure to go ahead and include your scoring format. If there's no scoring format included in the question in itself, I'm just going to assume that it's a half PPR. And hopefully that'll kind of lean us in the right direction. Okay, sounds good. Awesome. Thank you. All right, we had Chris Allin send in a super chat really quickly. He said, in a full PPR scoring format, do I start? Okay, do I have to start one wide receiver, one flex for this given week? We have Treylon Burks, we have Mike Evans, we have Deebo Samuel, we have Drake London, Tyler Algier, Leonard Fournette, Alexander Madison, and I'm assuming Jay Williams is Jamal Williams. All right, so of the group of players that you have, I'd like to play Tyler Algier as that starting running back, primarily. As for where, and the reason why I'm leaning in that direction, by the way, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have already kind of established a lot of their primary guys to be out. I mean, like, they've already... Logan Ryan's going to be out. Carl Nassib's going to be out. Carlton Davis is going to be out. Vita Vea is going to be out. Most likely, Julio Jones will probably be out. Carl Nassib. I already mentioned that, sorry. There's going to be a rotation of those defensive players that are just not going to start off the rip on Sunday, primarily because, again, they're trying to keep them healthy. But I think Tyler Algier, the fact that this team is at a full go, they're trying to get him to a 1,000-yard mark. They're going to give him as many opportunities as they possibly can. And he's been playing extremely well as of late. So Algiers is the primary there. As for the wide receiver, in this circumstance, I'd probably lean towards playing Deebo Samuel on his first week back. As for your question, Chris, in regards to defense, Dolphins, Bengals, Texans, or Colts, of those four defenses, I have the Bengals ranked the highest. Thank you. Appreciate it, Chris. All right, let's see here. What do we have? Okay, so Dominic in the chat was saying, pick one running back and one flex, David Montgomery, Isaiah Pacheco, and Evan Ingram. Okay, so if I'm playing two of those three options, I'd play Pacheco along with Evan Ingram, and I'd bench David Montgomery. Again, when Nathan Peterman is your starting quarterback, there is likelihood that, and actually it's a pretty strong likelihood that David Montgomery is going to get himself a high volume of targets. Even with that being the case, I don't trust it unless, David Montgomery is going to fall into the end zone with garbage time. It is tough to predict something of that nature, so I'll take Pacheco alongside Evan Ingram today. Both those studs. Carter was saying in the chat, Studham. Yeah, Studham instead of Stidham. And then along with Kirk or Purdy. Worried about the Vikings resting Kirk. Yeah, if you're worried about the Vikings not using Kirk Cousins in the second half or anything of that nature, I think Purdy's pretty much the automatic. He's been super consistent this season. What is it, 5 or 6 consecutive games of 2 or more passing touchdowns. He's getting himself yardage. He gets Deebo back. He'll get Elijah Mitchell back. This offense is going to be a well-oiled machine on Sunday against the Arizona Cardinals. So I would lean towards Purdy if you're worried about Kirk Cousins. That would be my second suggestion. If you want to play stud him, by all means, you certainly can. I just don't know what kind of, I mean, the safety of it is just a little bit riskier. Could have more upside, certainly, but high risk, high reward, potentially. Mario in the chat was saying, if Jacobs is going to, okay, so he says, I'm unsure if Jacobs is going to start today. He is still questionable. Should I start him? So basically, Mario, what I read as of, I would say, 5 minutes before the stream began, was there was a report from Ian Rappaport of the NFL Network. He specifically, let me see here. What did he tweet out? So he said that last night, what was this exactly? Last night, Josh Jacobs' father was had heart surgery or something of that extent. Hopefully it all went well, something of that extent. And then at the end of his entire tweet, he pretty much wanted to ensure that, yes, Josh Jacobs is going to be playing today. So hopefully his family's doing well. Fingers crossed, everything's going to go well there. But yeah, the expectation is that Josh Jacobs is going to play based on the tweet that I just read from Ian Rappaport of the NFL Network. Let's see here. Bill, I sent in something here. What the heck is that? Where is that, Bill? Let me see here. Let me find Bill's question. Bill, if you have a question, please do me a solid. Go ahead and type it in the live chat, and I'll be able to get to it right now. Cameron says Cameron says Jonathan Williams, Jeff Wilson Jr., or Deontay Foreman. Deontay Foreman missed Wednesday and Thursday practice, was limited on Friday, which keeps me a little bit concerned about his overall potential. Jonathan Williams would be an automatic start over the 3 if, in fact, we had a confirmation that there was going to be no Brian Robinson. That is yet to come down the information list. So as of right now, it would probably be Jeff Wilson above the rest there, Cameron. Let's see here. Cody says, Dotson over Deontay Johnson with Sam Howell at quarterback? Yes. I will take that. The primary reason is because to be totally honest, it doesn't matter who's playing quarterback against the Dallas Cowboys. They will always succeed. The secondary is broken, and you don't have to throw this side of the Trayvon Diggs. You can obviously, go away from him every single snap, and you will still continue to find success. So at this point, just look at what Joshua Dobbs did last week on a short week in his first start for the Tennessee Titans. The guy came in and was a pretty good quarterback option against the Dallas Cowboys. I think Sam Howell will be fine. Let's see here. I'm actually curious. Have they confirmed that Mr. Brian Robinson is out? Let me see if there's any new reports on that, because everybody's asking about Jonathan Williams as if he is. Because I don't see anything. Let me go to the injury report for the one and only Washington Commanders. Washington Commanders, Brian Robinson, he's out. All right, we got to update the rankings. How about that? I literally looked at it this morning, was not there. Now we have the information, so I will go ahead and I'll adjust rankings on screen. That's the entire point of this. That's why we have rankings. Let's go ahead. Let's open up the Photoshop and let's get it tweaked a little bit here. So let's go here. Let's grab Jonathan Williams out of this position and let's bring him into the forefront of this conversation. So where do I want to put him in comparison to these other guys? Theoretically, it would probably be... Yeah, it's probably here. That's probably the safe... Is he better than Zach Moss? Yes, because he has receiving upside technically. I'd probably put him there. Okay, that's fine. I'm going to adjust those rankings right now. It is interesting that they sent Antonio Gibson to the injured reserve, and then there is no Brian Robinson. So he pretty much has the entire backfield to himself. The only question is, can the Washington Commanders sustain enough to where this guy can at least be in the conversation of getting like 15 rushing attempts? He's been a good running back in the past. You go back to the days in which Jonathan Williams played in Indianapolis. He had those back-to-back games of over 100 rushing yards. If you guys remember a couple years back, those were some exciting times for that guy. He's been in the league for a while, but anytime he's given opportunity, it's nice because he at least can continue to stay in the league, in the rotation, and at least have more and more opportunities. All right, let's go ahead. I'm going to adjust the rankings as such. If I see that it potentially needs to be adjusted once again, I will be sure to do so, but that should cover that in terms of rankings on screen. Thank you. Where are we at? Butker or Boswell? I mean, I don't like either, to be totally honest. Harrison Butker, I mean, when I looked at the overall practice schedule for this week, the guy was not healthy. He did not practice Wednesday or Thursday, was limited on Friday. He continues to miss wide open PATs. Field goals are always going awry for him. So it just doesn't seem like it's a automatic to start someone like Harrison Butker. So I'd probably just go with Boswell there in that circumstance. Should Jacobs worry me? I mean, should he worry you? Again, we're in week 18. Anything should worry you at this point, right? Because if in fact they told us, hey, Josh Jacobs is going to leave the game at halftime because he doesn't feel like playing anymore, I wouldn't be surprised, right? There are so many different circumstances that could bring themselves to the forefront in week 18 that would not surprise me due to the fact that it is week 18 and just the nature of the week being like, hey, a lot of these players don't have to play. They know, they've already gone ahead and proven themselves. They want to stay healthy going into the offseason, not have any setbacks in this kind of scenario. So teams will be cautious with their players. But in the case of Josh Jacobs, they want to ensure that he wins the rushing title. And in some conversations that I've heard or articles that I've read, they're also trying to push him to try to get the franchise record for the Raiders in terms of rushing yards in a given season. So he'll try for it. Donald Smith says, is Jalen Hurts playing? From basically everything that I've read, yes, he is going to be playing. Nick Sirianni said that he's on a good track to playing on Sunday. I mean, there's always a chance that he doesn't. And that point, you would then pivot to another option. No matter who they start, whether it's Minshew or Jalen Hurts, it's going to be a successful day in terms of fantasy for them. There's just more upside, obviously, with Jalen Hurts with his rushing ability. Let's see here. McKinnon or Algier? McKinnon, Algier, McLaurin, PPR. Between those three, I would play Jerick McKinnon. Thank you. Let's see here. Where was Bill's question? Bill said, standard, please pick a wide receiver 2 in a flex. Okay. From Waddle, Christian Kirk, Brandon Ayuk, Zach Moss, and Jeff Wilson. Thank you, Andrew. And have a great New Year. Thank you very much. Appreciate it, Bill. Okay, so here is the question. In a standard scoring format, can I trust Waddle? No, because touchdown is going to have to be implied if we're going to trust that. So of the group of remaining players, I'd probably lean towards, in a standard format, your wide receiver 2 probably has to be Brandon Ayuk. But with Debo back in a standard format, it's a little bit tougher. But yeah, it's probably the better play of the bunch. So it would go Ayuk at your wide receiver 2 and probably Jeff Wilson as your overall RB/flex in this current scenario. I thought about playing Zach Moss over Jeff Wilson, but man, the Colts would, the Colts are a tricky team to predict. Zach Moss would have to fall into the end zone 100% to be able to outscore Jeff Wilson in any capacity this week. Thank you. Nathan Gutierrez says, Andrew, I'm playing for the Super Bowl. Need help. Need to start. Okay, we need to start a set between these running backs and wide receivers. I have Cook, McCaffrey, Barkley. My wide receivers are Allen, Amon-Ra, and Lockett. Any tips? At this point, McCaffrey full practice on Friday was specifically said by Kyle Shanahan that McCaffrey, Elijah Mitchell, and Deebo Samuel are all going to play. So with that taken into account, McCaffrey's in my lineup. Barkley is expected probably not to play tomorrow, based on everything that I've read. Dalvin Cook, on the other hand, is expected to play, and if they're going to go up against the Chicago Bears defense, one of the easiest matchups at the running back position. In fact, half of their defense went to the injured reserve this week. It leads me to believe that Dalvin Cook could very easily in the first half be a 10-plus point player in that overall opportunity span. I don't know how many touches he'll get in the first half, but I think it'll be enough to make him a viable enough option in comparison to, of course, playing Barkley, which probably doesn't play. Now, as for Allen, Amon-Ra, and Lockett, at this point, Lockett's still dealing with the injury. There's enough of a reason to believe that there is a potential for re-aggravation of said injury to just rather play Allen and Amon-Ra instead. Now, if you're picking between Barkley and Lockett to play in your flex, at that point, you're probably just going to have to play Lockett because, again, you could swap Barkley technically for Matt Breida, but I don't feel that that's going to be very helpful in the long run. Thank you. Let's see here. Full PPR from DB says, all right, DB Forever says, full PPR with bonuses. Pick 3. We have Cook, Stevenson, Pollard, Pacheco. Jamal Williams, Gus Edwards. It would be Cook, Pollard, and Jamal Williams. Stevenson had less rushing attempts than Damian Harris last week. The overall opportunities that are going around in that backfield, I mean, as of late, Stevenson's not getting too many targets. They're going up against the Buffalo Bills, one of the better defenses in the National Football League. So at this point, I'm thinking, yeah, we'll probably go with Jamal, Pollard, and Cook. Everything that is kind of surrounded around the Detroit Lions has kind of revolved around, hey, are they potentially even going to be in the playoff picture by the time they get to Sunday Night Football? Because there is a conversation to be had in regards to if, in fact, the Seattle Seahawks, I think, what is it? If the Seattle Seahawks lose, no, I think it's if the Seattle Seahawks win, the Detroit Lions are automatically out. And if that's the case, then in the Sunday night game, they're pretty much just playing upset spoiler, try to stop the Packers from winning and getting in. So, there's always that conversation, but I've already heard confirmations that the team is going to be playing at a full capacity, and they want to break Barry Sanders' record of most touchdowns, or at least tie his record for most touchdowns by a running back in Detroit Lions history. I think Jamal Williams has 15 rushing touchdowns this season already, and Barry Sanders' record is at 16, so they want to at least tie that, maybe if not break it in this given game. So they'll give them the opportunities to do so for sure. Appreciate that, DB. Also, your follow-up question was Waddle or Cooper. Between the two, listen, Waddle's great. He's a fantastic wide receiver. I just don't trust Skylar Thompson going up against the Jets. Therefore, I would probably just play Amari Cooper there. Thank you. Appreciate it. Where are we at here? We're going with the next question. Nathan Gutierrez, where is your question, Nathan? Nathan says, oh yeah, we already took care of that. Awesome. Just wanted to make sure we got that out of the way. Perfect. All right, moving on. Let's see what other questions we have. For those of you who are joining us, again, welcome. Hope you guys are doing well. If you guys could do me a solid, click that like button down below. Be greatly appreciated. We have rankings on the right side of the screen in order to help you out for today. And of course, tomorrow I'll be back from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time with more adjustments overall. Anything outside of that, be sure to ask me in the chat. We'll go ahead and also put together some PrizePick entries a little bit later on in today's stream prior to the Kansas City and Raiders game. I'll talk about some of the plays going into that game in specific that I like. And hopefully you guys can go ahead and check that out. Use promo code Andrew today. There's a link in the description. Thank you very much. All right. So let's see here. Donald Smith in chat was asking KJ Osborne or Scary Terry in a full PPR. Yeah, I would play Terry McLaurin. As much as I like KJ Osborne, there isn't a guarantee that he's going to have the garbage time that we want him to. Like that game could very easily become 30-0 at halftime in regards to the Vikings versus the Bears. And if KJ Osborne isn't utilized in any sort of capacity in the second half because all they're doing is running the ball, it would not surprise me. So I'd rather just play the stud wide receiver of Terry McLaurin and let it roll there against a secondary that, again, has struggled mightily over the course of the last 2 months here. Dominic says, thanks for... Another question is defense. Okay, here we go. Let's see here, Dominic. So Vikings, Chargers defense, Jaguars or Seahawks. Okay. Let me go ahead and let me read you guys my defensive rankings going into this week. Top 12 as of right now. Number 1 is the Philadelphia Eagles. Number 2 is the San Francisco 49ers. Number 3 is the Dallas Cowboys. 4 is Minnesota Vikings. 5 is Seattle Seahawks. 6 is Jacksonville Jaguars. 7 is the New York Jets. 8 is the Buffalo Bills. 9 is the Los Angeles Chargers. 10 is the Cincinnati Bengals. 11 is the Pittsburgh Steelers. And 12 are the Miami Dolphins. So those are my top 12 defenses going into the week. As for top 12 kickers, number 1, I have Matt Prater. Number 2, Brett Maher. Number 3, Robbie Gould. Number 4, Jason Myers. Number 5, Riley Patterson. Number 6 is Daniel Carlson. Number 7 is Tyler Bass. 8 is Evan McPherson. 9 is Justin Tucker. 10 is Mason Crosby. 11 is Michael Badgley. And 12 is Eddie Pinheiro. Hopefully that helps. If you guys had any questions regarding that, hopefully that is all settled. I appreciate it. Chris White in the chat was saying Stidham, higher ceiling than Purdy with a stronger floor. Does he have a higher ceiling? I mean, here's the thing, right? After you have film on a quarterback in a given week and you know how that offense is going to run, I believe that the Kansas City Chiefs will be far more equipped with the ability to, at least stop what the Raiders are providing in comparison to last week where there was no film on Jarrett Stidham and there really wasn't anything to kind of play off of besides what Derek Carr was putting forth. So at this point, I lean towards the idea that, hey, if you want to play Jarrett Stidham, by all means, be my guest. I just feel like the stability of which Purdy is provided is safer. I think the safer floor is Purdy. I think the upside is certainly going to be in Jarrett Stidham's favor, but there's also the ability of him not playing as well and being a lesser play than Purdy, which of course frightens me, and that's why I kind of lean towards the safety of Purdy. Unless, of course, you're playing in like a 2-week playoff kind of format, you're already down major points, you need a huge uptick, and this would be your potential uptick player. At that point, I could understand why you would make that adjustment. Onage was saying in the chat, looks like Josh Jacobs just got listed as fully healthy, good to go. Yep, that was the expectation. And again, that's pretty much been Josh Jacobs' MO the entire season. For those of you guys who have had him, every single week this man has been questionable, and then eventually by Sunday he gets healthy, or questionable until Thursday, and then he's good to go. So luckily we've seen him be healthy all season long. That's fantastic. I think this is, if I'm not mistaken, I think this is his second season only out of 5. Actually, no, I think maybe that's out of 4 seasons. When did he get into the league? 2019? I think that's what it was. Yeah, 2019. This is his only second season which he's played every single game. Again, it's pretty rare for Josh Jacobs. He typically misses a couple games here and there, but he really fought through it this year, and that's incredible to see, especially for a running back to stay healthy at a full capacity. That I mean, it's rare to say the very least. Total Chad was saying, if Pat gets the record, as in Patrick Mahomes, I'll be all but confirmed. Okay, secured for my 6th Super Bowl. Yeah, I don't think Patrick Mahomes is going to go for the 410 passing yards today. If he's able to do so, then that'd be incredible. But it's going to be tough to expect him to go for that many yards. If he does, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. It's Patrick Mahomes, but what is he? I think it's 410 yards away from surpassing Peyton Manning's all-time record for passing yards in a season. Yeah, that would be crazy. Where are we at here? Travis says Stidham may have more passing yards. No, Stidham will definitely have more passing yards than Brock Purdy, if that's what we're talking about, Travis. He would certainly have more passing yards. Travis was also saying, should I play both Adams? What is this? Play both Adams and Jacobs going up against Mahomes and Minshew? Yeah, I mean, you kind of have to at this point, right? They're both going to be starting. We know that this offense is, based on last week's performance, far more equipped to score points than we saw with Derek Carr. So, yeah, it's probably in your best interest to start both those options, Devontae Adams and Josh Jacobs. Let's see here. Quaid said, what's up, Andrew? Hope all is well. It is well. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. This is for all the beans. Full PPR. Deontay Johnson, A.J. Dillon, J.K. Dobbins, or Greg Dortch. Thanks. In a full PPR scoring format, I'd love to play some of these other players. They just aren't as reliable as A.J. Dillon as of late, to be totally honest. Deontay Johnson probably gets you a safe 10 points, 5 catches, 50 yards. And if that's what you're looking for, by all means, that's great. But I think A.J. Dillon, his streak of 4 games now with a rushing touchdown, or maybe it's 5 games now. I think it might be actually 5 games. A.J. Dillon's my suggestion out of the group. Greg Dortch had a pretty high volume of targets last week. I don't really expect that to be much, especially if his average depth of target is going to be a little bit shallow. The receptions that he's going to garner are great, but I think his overall scoreline at the end of the week will probably look similar to someone like Deontay Johnson. Dobbins against Cincinnati doesn't really excite me, so I'll take A.J. Dillon out of that group. Let's see here. Chris Allen was saying, how do you feel about Jonathan Williams now that Brian Robinson is out and Antonio Gibson is out? I mean, listen, I'm being very conservative with my ranking. I put him at number 29. He will have the entire reign of this backfield, but again, it is with a backup quarterback against the defense that primarily, yes, teams have found a lot of success running on, but they're probably going to be throwing for majority of the day in order to keep up with the Dallas Cowboys offense. So in my mind, yes, he's going to have value. He's probably a lower end. Actually, he's middle of the pack RB3 that has upside to be an RB2, assuming he finds himself a high yardage total game and or a touchdown. But again, those overall variables are really tough to predict at this point, especially with the Dallas Cowboys defense being as bad as they are in terms of stopping the pass. So I'm expecting Sam Howell to be allowed to kind of let it rip in a game in which, again, it does not matter whether they win or lose. They're going to allow him to potentially just kind of prove what he's got prior to them going into the offseason and determining whether or not they need another quarterback on roster. So at this point, I'll probably just kind of be conservative with Jonathan Williams and leave him at number 29 going forward. Appreciate it. Let's see here. Emily says, questions for my brother. Says, Lawrence or Prescott. Okay, I'll take Trevor Lawrence there against. Yeah, again, the Tennessee Titans matchup as a whole, primarily, is really good for the Jacksonville Jaguars because their secondary has been beat up all year long. They still have a bunch of their secondary members that missed last week but are still questionable to play later this afternoon. That pass rush, the defensive line is great for Tennessee, but again, this offensive line has been pretty solid over the year. I'm expecting Trevor Lawrence to probably outscore Dak Prescott there. I mean, Dak Prescott, like I mentioned in yesterday's episode, 2 or more passing touchdowns in 8 out of the last 9 games. He is a safe prospect. He'll also throw himself a couple interceptions. I think the higher ceiling and potential is with Trevor Lawrence. As for your follow-up question, Mostert or Jonathan Williams in the flex, I have a hard time thinking that the Miami Dolphins can actually win this game without running the ball. I think they're going to have to run the ball for majority of the day and probably give Mostert and Jeff Wilson a bunch of touches, if not just obviously dump it off to them like they did last week. So I'm going to hope that, Mostert's going to continue to get that kind of higher volume of, receiving upside. So I'll lean in that direction. Especially against the Jets, it's going to be really difficult with a third string quarterback to move the ball unless they're literally going to run it up the gut. So that's what I'm expecting to see. Let's see here. Mars Robots says 35.5 points with Gabe Davis or Josh Allen and Devin Singletary. With Gabe Davis or Josh Allen and Devin Singletary. I don't understand the or in that entire conversation. If there's an or, as in like, are we talking about Devin Singletary versus Gabe Davis? I'd rather have Devin Singletary. But actually I would. I would rather have Devin Singletary. Gabe Davis is far too sporadic in his outputs to be guaranteed for any points in this circumstance. Is it safe to play Dalvin Cook? Ernie, so this is the thought process, right? So he's going to be starting. Unless further notice, I mean, obviously there's still time until tomorrow for them to come out and say, yes, we're not going to start our primary guys. Then by all means, that'll give us more information. But in terms of what we expect, he will start. He'll probably play the first half, if not into the beginning of the third quarter, and then he'll be done. I think if they're going to mount a 3 or 4 score lead, Dalvin Cook will be involved enough to where he's going to be fantasy relevant even in 3 quarters of play, especially going up against that defense. Donald's also saying full PPR, Taysom Hill, Evan Ingram, or Cole Kmet. In a full PPR, it's Evan Ingram. Yeah, it would be Evan Ingram number 1, Taysom Hill 2, and Cole Kmet 3. I don't really trust Cole Kmet with a third string quarterback in Nathan Peterman. Nathan Peterman in his 4 career games as a starting quarterback, or even just even in the games in which he just came in to take over for another injured quarterback, I think he has like 9 interceptions to 1 passing touchdown. He hasn't had the best career. He's going to be surrounded by a far lesser offense than some of the others that he's played on. So it's tough to expect Cole Kmet to have enough opportunity to be relevant in this given circumstance. Nick says, Andrew, full PPR championship. I'm still up 8.2 with Derrick Henry, Kenneth Walker, Jerick McKinnon, Tony Pollard, Dalvin Cook at running back. Which would you play? I have Zay Jones and Michael Pittman / Waddle at my wide receiver too. Between Waddle and Pittman, I'm thinking I'd go with either of them. I'd probably lean towards Waddle because I just don't trust Sam Ehlinger very much overall. I know Sam Ehlinger was able to complete a passing touchdown last week to Michael Pittman Jr., but going up against Houston does not really keep me excited, especially considering we're going to probably see Desmond King covering Michael Pittman Jr. for the entire day. So it'll probably lean me towards playing Jalen Waddle there. As for your prior question in terms of running back, I'd like to play Derrick Henry alongside with, Dalvin Cook, Kenneth Walker. I mean, really, you have too many good running backs. This is the running back curse here. You have so many good running backs that you've got into a position where it's kind of risky. So considering you have Derrick Henry, he's the automatic. You play him today. Tomorrow, again, if there's no information in regards to Dalvin Cook, sitting in before the game even begins or being out in any sort of capacity, he would be my number 2, followed by Kenneth Walker. So those would be the 3 that I'd like to run out there. Jesus was saying Mike Williams or AJ Dillon in the flex. In a half PPR, I'd go with AJ Dillon. In a full PPR, I'd probably go Mike Williams. Let's see here. This person had no name. That's a crazy one. Pick 3 out of the 4. Chubb, Akers, Pollard, McKinnon in a half PPR. Out of the 4.5 PPR, again, the rankings on screen will give you guys my idea as to where I'm going in a half PPR. So that should be able to give you an idea. It would be McKinnon being the sitting option there. If you're not, if you're not keen on that idea, then you sit Nick Chubb. That would be the next option. Otherwise, I would like to start Akers and Pollard over the rest. Thank you. Let's see here. Should I start Tyreek Hill or Cole Kmet? Tyreek Hill. Yeah, that's for sure, Shady. Anonymous says, thoughts on playing McKinnon and Aaron Jones over Pollard and Chubb? That's fine. That's fine by me. Again, they're close enough in my rankings, and I don't feel, I don't feel like I'm committed to the idea of playing Pollard and or Chubb at all. So I'm fine playing McKinnon and Aaron Jones there. Debo or Myers for my Super Bowl final. If it's a full PPR, I play Myers. If in a half PPR, I'm playing Debo. Thank you. Basil. What are the questions we have? We had David. He says, I'm in the championship. I don't know what to do in a full PPR. 2 flex spots available. We have Juju, Olave, McLaurin, and Dillon. Going into this weekend, I'd probably play Dillon and McLaurin. Juju's really sketchy. Like I was mentioning earlier this week, he's either going to get you 3 to 5 points or he's going to get you 18 to 20 points, right? And in a full PPR sense, it is super risky, especially considering you can play someone like Olave or McLaurin and they can very easily get you 10 points with very little, effort. And they'll have even more upside in their better games, similar to a Juju Smith-Schuster. So I would probably try to avoid his instability of play and just lead in the direction of going McLaurin and Dillon there. Thank you. Ronald Spencer in the chat was saying Christian Kirk or Jacoby Myers. That's a good one. Jacoby Myers finding the end zone each of the last 2 weeks is super promising. I just don't trust it against the Bills secondary, to be honest. I think Mac Jones has played far better in the last couple weeks in terms of converting some of those red zone opportunities to touchdowns. But ultimately, it just seems like the safer play is Christian Kirk going up against that Tennessee Titans secondary. Thank you. All right. Any new questions here? We had Leo in the chat was saying standard league, Garrett Wilson or Christian Watson. Between the two, yeah, it's Garrett Wilson. And I feel really strong about that. Primarily because of Joe Flacco's return. If you guys remember weeks 1 through 3, Garrett Wilson with Joe Flacco was a really good overall fantasy option. Then obviously disappeared once we saw the likes of Zach Wilson return. Now that we have Mike White, and then of course, Mike White as of late kind of reintroduced the value of Garrett Wilson. And then now that he's out with a rib injury, Joe Flacco's back into the conversation. I'm all in on Garrett Wilson being a fantastic play this week. As for your follow-up question there, Leo, should I bench Justin Jefferson and start Wilson and Watson? No. You have to play Justin Jefferson. You have to play Wilson. Watson's a great player, but again, he's still questionable. He's still dealing with that injury. It's a far more risky scenario to play him in this given circumstance. As for your final question there, Dobbins or Moss, again, rankings are on screen. I'll go with Moss there over J.K. Dobbins this week. Thank you. Donovan, I think we took care of Don. Yeah, okay. So Donald says, thank you, Andrew. Evan Ingram it is. Just picked up the Vikings defense versus the Bears. Yeah, that should be a free one, to say the very least. Sylvester says Chargers or Jaguars. I'll take the Jaguars defense this week. Thank you. I have the Jaguars again at number, where did I have them? I had the Jaguars at number 6 and I have the Chargers at number 9. So again, the momentum that the Jaguars defense has kind of presented over the course of the last month here, I think they've been over 10 fantasy points each of the last 4 games. It's pretty safe to assume that they're going to have another big week here against Joshua Dobbs in terms of whether or not they're holding Derrick Henry or bottling him up. They're going to allow points. That's a given. It's just a matter of how many sacks and or turnovers they're going to force out of the younger quarterback. Let's get back into the chat. Let's see here. Travis says, is it a good idea to play McKinnon to counter my opponent with Mahomes in a standard? I mean, if you're playing him just to counter and you're playing a lesser running back in comparison, like if your idea is, hey, should I be playing Josh Jacobs or Jerick McKinnon? I'd lean towards the idea of like, hey, Josh Jacobs is going to have more opportunity overall. The sense of getting those touchdowns probably in an even rate, but yardage is leaning towards Josh Jacobs. I wouldn't play Jerick McKinnon to specifically counter Mahomes unless he's the best running back option that you have. Let's see here. Poke was saying, I think Tony will have the best game today. His best game today. I mean, maybe. McCole Hardman comes back. So that's the entire question. Does McCole Hardman's presence reduce the amount of snaps that Tony gets, because we know that Sky Moore is out, and Sky Moore is kind of primarily filled in those kind of roles. So it's going to be between Kadarius Toney and McCole Hardman. Let's see who's going to get majority of the snaps and or opportunities there. Jesus says, do you think the Chargers rest their players? Okay, so here is the thing. Okay, this is the primary information that I know based on the math of the NFL playoffs. So tomorrow, we have the Cincinnati Bengals taking on the Baltimore Ravens at the morning slate of games. So it would start at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So during the 10 a.m. position, if the Cincinnati Bengals beat the Baltimore Ravens, the Chargers will automatically have the number 5 seed and will not have to start their players. Now, the fact of the matter is, the Chargers play in the afternoon slate 3 hours later. So they will have the ability to, by the time they get to that game, know, hey, okay, the Bengals already beat the Ravens, and we don't have to start our players. So we're just going to play them for the first quarter and then bench them for the remainder of the game. There is a high likelihood of that occurring. But we won't know until we see the results of that first game, which is super risky, but it is in the conversation. It needs to be kind of noted. All right, Nameless, I appreciate that. Garrett Wilson or Jalen Waddle? Joseph, I'll take Garrett Wilson there. Again, guys, the rankings on screen are updated as of probably 30 minutes ago. So if you guys have any questions, hopefully the rankings on screen can kind of set you up in terms of where I'm leaning in the direction of. Again, I'm not 100% accurate. We both know that. You guys have been around long enough to understand that if I was 100% accurate, I would not be here on a Saturday afternoon answering fantasy questions. I'd be in Vegas, having some drinks, enjoying my time, putting some bets down, enjoying life there. But at this current circumstance, I think the research that I've done, the overall potential for opportunity and the variables that can be taken into account for these given games lead me in this direction in regards to player ranking. So let's hope for the best. King sends in a question, says, salutations from the UK, Andrew. Full PPR, 3. For McKinnon, McKinnon, Zach Moss, Algier, Aaron Jones, Walker. Out of the potential 5 options there, in a full PPR, I have Kenneth Walker number 1, Aaron Jones number 2, and Jerick McKinnon number 3. I bench Moss and Algier there in a full PPR there, King. Thank you. Basil was saying 3 out of 5 in a normal league. Debo, Myers, Lockett, Deontay, Godwin. In a normal league, as in standard or a half PPR, either one, I'm still going to play Myers, Lockett, and Debo there over Deontay and Godwin. Thank you. Tony Telford, thank you very much. Hardman is out, huh? Interesting. Really? Dude, why the heck did they change this stuff up, man? Yesterday, or not even yesterday, I was fixing rankings at 4 in the morning, and everything looked perfectly fine. McCall Hardman says he's questionable. Did he get... Yeah, he probably got knocked out. Interesting. Let me see here. Chiefs, Week 18 inactives. Did they really make him inactive? Yeah, McCall Hardman. There it is. 32 minutes ago. Okay, very well. Kadarius Toney's could probably have a better game then. We'll probably put together a prize pick in, I'd say, 20 minutes in regards to this game. Okay, anyway, getting back to Tony's question. It says, I'm lost, Andrew. In a full PPR, I need a RB2 and a wide receiver 2 along with a flex. Okay. Algier, Pollard, Stevenson, Zay Jones, Montgomery. Okay, so of those options, RB2 is Pollard, flex is Algier, wide receiver 2 is Zay Jones. Because again, you don't have any other wide receiver options out of that group. So Zay Jones is your wide receiver 2, Algier and Pollard. Thank you. As for your follow-up, Saints defense or the Vikings, I'll take the Vikings against the Bears. And then the last question is roll with Geno Smith or pick up Purdy. Thanks, man. God bless. At this point, I think Geno Smith probably has just as much upside, just as much safety as Purdy. If I had to pick one of the two, I mean, Purdy's just been so damn consistent. If you need upside, it's Geno. Like, if you think, okay, hey, I need a quarterback that can throw for 300 yards and have the chance of getting that third passing touchdown, it's Geno in comparison, right? But if you're just like, hey, I just need to get a solid floor of 16 fantasy points, it's not to say that Purdy can't throw for 300 and, throw for 3 passing touchdowns. He certainly can. It's just not going to be asked of him going up against the Arizona Cardinals. So, again, if you just need a solid 16-point player in a 4-point per passing touchdown league, it's probably there in regards to Brock Purdy. Let's see here. Chris says, hey, Andrew, who should I play? I have Derrick Henry as my RB1. which I feel is a lock, absolutely. ETN is my starting RB2 and McKinnon as my flex. I have Walker and Akers on my bench. Ooh-wee. All right, so here's the issue that I have with ETN. He can certainly be a 10 to 15 point player. He's got to find the end zone then. Like 100% has to find the end zone. And not only that, he has to either have a big run of like 30 or 40 yards, or he has to catch the ball 5 times. So with all those contingencies of what he has to do, there's more of a likelihood of him not accomplishing one of those things to be in that conversation, because otherwise he probably has himself 12 to 13 rushing attempts for 40 rushing yards today against that Tennessee Titans run stop. He probably has himself 2 receptions for 15 yards. Okay, great. 55 total yards. If he doesn't find the end zone, he finishes as a 6.5 to 7 point player unless he breaks off a big run there. So in this current circumstance, I'd much rather play Kenneth Walker or Cam Akers ahead of him. As for McKinnon, I'm okay with that. I think McKinnon's upside is strong enough to where I could see the argument, especially, let me see, what was your format here? Where did this question go? Okay, there was no format mentioned, Chris, but let's say, for example, you are playing in a full PPR. I could convince myself to play McKinnon over Akers. In a half PPR, I do prefer Akers over him and along with Walker there, but that's just the way I play it. That's how I have the rankings on screen. Thanks. Donovan says, should I start Sam Darnold and Stidham or Mac Jones? Yeah, no, I'd much rather play Sam Darnold and Jarrett Stidham over Mac Jones. Mac Jones is a little bit risky, man. That's the biggest issue, because even though he's played well in the last 2 weeks, the defense is in comparison to what the Bills are going to be putting forth is, it's a completely different conversation. Jahan Dotson or Marquise Hollywood Brown? Depends on format. Again, if you're talking about a half PPR, the rankings are on screen. I have Marquise Hollywood Brown at number 28 and Jahan Dotson at 31. If it's a full PPR, I'd probably still lean in that direction. In a standard format, I go Jahan Dotson just for the hope of a touchdown. Nameless says, no one knows what to do with McKinnon this week. I'm torn between benching Chubb and leaving McKinnon on my bench. At this point, here's my thought process, right? Between Chubb and McKinnon could very easily score a touchdown and score just as many points as Chubb does if Chubb doesn't find the end zone. The likelihood of Chubb finding the end zone, considering he hasn't done it once with Deshaun Watson in the last 5 games, probably leans us towards the idea that McKinnon probably outscores him. The only reason I have Chubb where I have him is because I know his potential is really high if he can find the end zone. He probably is a 20-point player automatic. But the issue is we can't guarantee it. So at this point, you could probably play McKinnon very safely and have just as many points as what someone like Chubb puts up at the end of the week. Dalton Schultz or Mark Andrews? I'll play Mark Andrews there, Poke. Let's see here. Pick 3 running backs. This is from the Breesy 13. Dalvin Cook, Ezekiel Elliott, Kenneth Walker, Najee Harris, Jamal Williams, AJ Dillon. I'll play Dalvin, Kenneth, and Najee. Thank you. Cash Kid says, standard league, I have DK Metcalf, Devontae Adams, DJ Moore, and AJ Brown. So I need a flex. Algier, Amari, or Amon-Ra. If it's a standard scoring format between those available options, I play Algier as your flex. If you're going to be starting all 4 of those receiving options, yeah, Algier would be your flex there. Let's see here. Where are we at? Jaguars or Chargers defense? Yeah, I'll play the Jaguars there. Thank you. Red Farm says, who would you start as a wide receiver 2 in a flex? Jefferson, Dotson, Tony, or Boyd? Wide receiver 2 in flex? I mean, Justin Jefferson's the automatic there. As for the follow-up, whether it's Boyd, Dotson, or Tony, I'd rather play Dotson there. Thank you. Raymond Brown says, hey, Andrew, in a full PPR, I need a flex. Ramondre, Mark Andrews, Michael Pittman, or Hollywood. In a full PPR, I would play Mark Andrews there. Thank you, Raymond. Do you trust Aaron Rodgers this week, says Cash Kid. Do I trust him? I mean, I trust him as far as the number, 11? What do I have him ranked? 11? I mean, whatever 11 looks like. I mean, if I go look at, let's see here. Typically, on a natural week of fantasy, let's see what number 11 at the quarterback position typically coincides with in terms of fantasy points scored. So if we go quarterback, we go to a standard 4-point per passing touchdown format. Number 11 last week was 16.6 fantasy points. The week prior in week 16, number 11 was 17.5 fantasy points. The week before that, 11 was 18.9 fantasy points. Wow. I mean, as of late, we've been going down a little bit here. The week before that, it was 19. Wow. What the heck's happening? Are quarterbacks getting worse every single week? 17 fantasy points again in week 13. So the idea of like, hey, he's going to score 16, 17 fantasy points, probably where he sits at. 2 touchdowns, 220 passing yards. I think that's a safe overall kind of day for Aaron Rodgers. Is he going to do more than that? Most likely not, considering how much they like to run the ball down in the red zone with A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones. So I'll lean in that direction. Standard scoring format, Njoku or Hawkinson. Yeah, I'll play Hawkinson there. 37 targets the last 3 games. It's kind of hard to pass up on, even if he's only going to play, the first 3 quarters. Cody says, I hope Jefferson breaks the record. I mean, the idea is that they'll probably just only funnel target him. I don't know if that's going to be actualized, but I would assume that if you're having meetings this week, they're like, hey, we're going to try to win this game. But they know full well that they can win that game with one hand tied behind their back without, Justin Fields on the other side of the field moving the offense for the Chicago Bears. So there's a high likelihood that they're going to allow Justin Jefferson to get his fair share of opportunities. Whether he accomplishes it, again, is going to be a matter of whether or not the Bears allow him to, because the Bears are going to try to probably double, maybe even triple cover him to ensure that it doesn't occur. NTV John says, what's up, Andrew? You still play Eckler today? I mean, today you're not playing Eckler, right? It would be tomorrow. But in comparison to what's up, Andrew? Would you still play Eckler today? I mean, yes, I would. Like I was mentioning earlier, the expectation for tomorrow is, hey, if you have Eckler on roster, you should have also rostered Joshua Kelly, because if the Baltimore Ravens lose in the morning slate of games tomorrow, then the afternoon will then lean in a direction to where there's a higher likelihood of, the potential of the Chargers is not starting any of their primary guys, if not pulling them early. So just be wary of that. Or should I play Zay Jones, Debo, or Ayuk? Yeah, at this point, Eckler would be in your lineup until the final second. And at that point, you probably just will play Eckler. And then if he gets pulled, you then have to pivot to playing Joshua Kelly. I would not, in any sort of circumstance, ever tell you not to play him this week until we know for sure that, he's not going to be playing. How confident are you with Dalvin Cook? He's disappointed in these situations. He's disappointed in these. What do you mean by these situations? Cash Kid says, I have Deshaun Watson, Aaron Rodgers, and Purdy because I'm already starting Jalen Hurts. Yeah, okay, so you're basically saying, do I trust Aaron Rodgers as the second quarterback on roster? Sure, but I'd rather play Purdy there. Okay, Basil, we'll get to PrizePicks in just a moment. We'll get to a couple of those predictions. First, what does it say? Top 5 first picks? Oh, sorry, that's a completely different thing. Okay, top 5 first picks of the new fantasy season as in next year. I mean, that's going to be, I think there's going to be a lot of movement this offseason, similar to last year. But at this point, the idea of Cooper Kupp, Christian McCaffrey, Justin Jefferson, Austin Eckler being as like a top 4 going into this upcoming season makes sense, similar to last year, or this year, excuse me. Alvin Kamara, Jamal Williams, full PPR. I'll play Jamal Williams there, finger. Let's hear. Todd says, love the show. Thank you for all the hard work. That being said, would you start Tony over Jacoby Myers? No, I played Jacoby Myers over Tony this week. Thank you. Great matchups against bad pass rush defense. Great matchups against bad rush defenses. I mean, so you're saying, Ghost, that he has played bad in good matchups? Is that what you're inferring? As in Dalvin Cook? Because that's an interesting take. I have never come to that conclusion in the entirety of this season, but that could be the case. Where do you rank Bijan Robinson next season? Depends where he gets drafted. Think about it, right? If Robinson gets drafted to the Pittsburgh Steelers, it's a disaster. But if he gets drafted to the Atlanta Falcons, we're talking about, him being a first-round pick automatically. So it'll depend on that purely. Where he ends up is going to be a huge difference maker in the entirety of it. ZW, no problem. Glad I can help. Chris says, start Herbert or Purdy. Yeah, at this point, it's probably just safer to roll with, let let me see. When does Purdy play? Because that'll probably be the determining factor for tomorrow as to when these guys actually play. Because if we don't know if Herbert's going to play, and if we expect purely that the Bengals are going to beat the Ravens, it's probably safer just to kind of pivot off of Justin Herbert there. Purdy plays in the morning. So, oh no, he plays in the afternoon. So yeah, that would be the thing. So by tomorrow afternoon, considering he does play in the afternoon, which is, it's lucky. If Justin Herbert doesn't have any sort of confirmation that hey, we don't have to play our starters because the Bengals won, and they have to play to win that game because the Baltimore Ravens won, then at that point you play Herbert. Otherwise, you would then pivot to playing Purdy in that overall role. What's your top defenses and kickers? All right, let's go over this one more time here. Top 12 defenses. We have the Eagles number 1, 49ers number 2, Cowboys 3, Vikings 4, Seattle Seahawks 5, Jaguars 6, Jets 7, Buffalo Bills 8, Chargers 9, Bengals 10, Pittsburgh Steelers 11, and Miami Dolphins 12. As for kickers, we have number 1 Prater, 2 is Maher, number 3 is Gould, number 4 is Myers, number 5 is Patterson, 6 is Carlson, 7 is Bass, 8 is McPherson, 9 is Justin Tucker, 10 is Crosby, 11 is Badgley, and 12 is Pinheiro. Thank you. Let's see here. Christian McCaffrey, Walker, and McKinnon at the flex. I have Sanders, Swift, Watson, and Judy. Should I make any changes? At this point, I mean, I like Sanders a lot. If you want to play McKinnon, just play McKinnon. You're fine with it. I like Sanders. There's always the potential that, that game turns into a complete blowout and he doesn't play in the second half, which, again, that's just the nature of Week 18. It could occur. So, yeah, at this point, you don't really have to make any changes. You're fine there. Let's see here. What is that? Okay. ZW says, I need to decide an RB1, RB2, and a flex. I have Henry, Algier, McKinnon, Jamal, Pacheco, and Rashad White. Henry would be number 1. Algier number 2, McKinnon 3. That's really where I'm feeling the most confident between those 6 running back options you have there, ZW. Shady was saying, should I start kicker Carlson or McPherson? I like Daniel Carlson today, especially considering he's at home. If you guys know anything about Daniel Carlson, I think in the last 2 years he's only missed 1 field goal at home. He's been playing pretty well, to say the least. Big Rick says, hey Andrew, Week 17 championship week. I had Burrow and T. Higgins down 15 full PPR fantasy points with a 95% projection to win. Obviously, the game was canceled. What would be a fair solution to resolve this? Okay. So here's a couple thought processes that I have in my mind, okay? There are a couple ways to go about this that you could implore if, in fact, this is your league, okay? And this goes for everyone in the chat right now. If, in fact, this kind of describes your league in which you could have won a championship last week, but unfortunately, because of the game cancellation, obviously, DeMar Hamlin's doing really well as of late. Everything's kind of trending positively, which is fantastic. Great to see there. So in regards to this game, this would be my thought process. Considering you have T. Higgins and Burrow, and I'm assuming, Big Rick, the guy that you were playing against didn't have any Bengals or Buffalo Bills in that matchup, the correct way of going about this would be one of 3, okay? You could go technically the first route where it's like, hey, we call it as such, you lose the game, which in my mind seems unfair because you started 2 players that did not get a fair chance to play this given week. So you could go that path, but I don't feel it's fair. The second path would be you call it a tie, and you'd say, hey, you don't have, even though I was projected a 95% chance to win, the fact of the matter is we won't know in reality what would ever happen in that game because there's a chance that Burrow and T. Higgins, don't play well for the remainder of that game and you lose, right? And you call it a tie off that. Or the third option is if, in fact, you have a backup wide receiver and a backup quarterback on your bench, and they have to be on your bench, considering the fact that it seems like with the game being canceled, it's practically a bye week. The exception for this overall circumstance would allow you to swap out Burrow for your backup quarterback and swap out T. Higgins with a backup wide receiver. And based on how many points they put up, would you win that matchup, yes or no? And that would be your championship decider. I feel like options 2 or 3, either the tie or the swap, are the fairest of the bunch because, quite frankly, you being subjected to losing a championship because the unfortunate nature of the unprecedented circumstances, it doesn't seem like that is the way we should go about it. In some leagues, people have, and that's fine. I just don't agree with it. We had a question that came in from the Loop. Loop says, burned by T-Law last week. It's okay. I mean, again, who would have guessed they were going to go up 30 points, and then they were, and that didn't even include a single touchdown from Trevor Lawrence. So I wouldn't expect that to occur again. As for your follow-up there, Loop, afraid reduced minimum. Okay, so yeah, I understand that as well. So you're afraid of the reduced minutes of Jalen Hurts potentially burning you tomorrow. You have Aaron Jones, Christian McCaffrey, who's injured, but again, he fully practiced yesterday, so he's fine. I'm down by 30. Do I go with T-Law, who is safer? Is T-Law safer? Yeah, he's probably safer, but the whole thing is, like, let's say, for example, the Giants somehow, some way keep that game competitive. There's a chance that Jalen Hurts could go for another 30 points. You got to remember, last time Jalen Hurts played against the New York Giants, he put up 48 points as an offense. They put up quite literally 48 points. So if in fact they want to duplicate something of that extent, and they're gonna score 5 touchdowns, 6 touchdowns as an offense to blow out that defense, Jalen Hurts probably is a great player. But if you want to be safe with it, quote unquote, then yeah, I think T-Law is okay there. That's fine. I wouldn't if it's my team, I'm probably playing Jalen, but I understand the risk factor that is involved in that, and I could see why you would want to pivot away from that. So I don't blame you for trying to play Trevor Lawrence there. In fact, yeah, I wouldn't blame you. I'll put it that way. I wouldn't do it myself, but I wouldn't blame you. Who are we playing? Purdy or Stidham? Yeah, I'd play Purdy there. Trust DJ Moore. Yeah, I would trust DJ Moore. 100% cash. 100%. DJ Moore has to be trusted. He has done enough in the course of the last month of the season to earn that trust. All right, let's see here. Chris says, what my league is doing is for week 18, for the respective players, Burrow, Higgins, Davis, Allen, whatever points they tally, they will add the ending score from last week. Seems fair. I don't think that's fair. I mean, you could play it that way. That's fine. I don't find that to be... I mean, I guess it's an option. That's fine. Because here's the thing, right? Like, there's a difference between Josh Allen playing against the Bengals defense and him playing against the Patriots defense, right? There are better matchups to be had. And I feel like if you drafted your team to have a specific, hey, week 17, I'm preparing for this, or I traded for this player essentially to utilize them in this given matchup because it's a higher scoring game, it does seem a little bit unfair to kind of pivot off that. But I mean, if that's the best solution that you guys could find, then that's fine by me. Whatever makes your league happy, that's purely the best way of going about it. Joe says, championship round, high score out of 4 teams. What do you mean by that, Joe? All right, let's see here. What does it say? Okay, cool. Very well. What the heck is that? No, that's nothing. All right. Other questions. Benny G says, hit the like button. Thank you very much, Benny. All the way out there from Australia. I appreciate that. Full PPR heading into week 18 championships. Do I start Higbee or Goddard? I could see the conversation as to why you would play Higbee against Seattle. It's probably a good... I mean, it's not probably a good matchup. It is a good matchup. Do I trust him more than Goddard with Jalen Hurts back? Probably not. A little sketchy there. I mean, I could see either of them being decent plays. The thing about the tight end position is, like, they're all going to probably have very similar yardage counts. It's just a matter of who's going to find the end zone, who has the higher likelihood of doing so. At this point, I'd lean towards Goddard. Let's see here. Todd says, thanks for answering my question. I saw your rankings, but asked because Myers is questionable. Yeah, I mean, listen, if they get to Friday/Saturday and they aren't already deemed out, the likelihood is that they're most likely going to be playing. So I wouldn't expect Myers to be out tomorrow. So yeah, that's kind of the direction I'm leaning in. Jun Chi says, Purdy or Dak? I'd play Dak this week. Thank you. Joe says, read the other comments. Okay, where is it at? Where's all your comments, Joe? Thoughts on my quarterback situation? I've got Hurts, Stidham, and Purdy. Who do I start? Hurts, Stidham, and Purdy. Yeah, I'd like to play Hurts there. In all honesty, that's kind of the direction I'm leaning in. I'm leaning towards Hurts, but I'm scared he won't play. No, he's gonna play. He's gonna play. Like I'm looking at a report from literally 2 minutes ago from Mike Garafolo of the NFL Network. His quote was, "Jalen Hurts returns for the Eagles while the Giants rest their key starters tomorrow." So the expectation is that Jalen Hurts. Yeah, look, it says Jalen Hurts expected to play on Sunday with a shoulder. Good to go. So I wouldn't worry about him playing. He's gonna play. It's just a matter of how much he plays. You know what I mean? Fresh Prince CT says, what are your top defenses? Great. All right, let's answer this. Here we go. Fresh Prince. We have number 1, Philadelphia Eagles. Number 2, San Francisco 49ers. 3 is the Dallas Cowboys. 4 is the Minnesota Vikings. 5 is the Seattle Seahawks. 6 is the Jacksonville Jaguars. 7 is the New York Jets. 8 are the Buffalo Bills. 9, Los Angeles Chargers. 10, Cincinnati Bengals. 11 are the Pittsburgh Steelers. And 12 are the Miami Dolphins. Those are my top 12 defenses going into the week. Thank you very much. Juan Rivera says, I'm down 30 points. Going against Jalen, Saquon, Christian McCaffrey, full PPR, Russell Wilson or Jarrett Stidham. Between the two, Juan, yeah, now that you have the availability of Jarrett Stidham, go for it. Because when you messaged me earlier today, Juan, the roster you had, I just responded, hey, those are the best players out of that roster I would go with. If you have the ability to play Jarrett Stidham today, I would play him over Russell Wilson. As for the follow-up, also flex, Jahan Dotson, Fournette, Michael Pittman Jr., Moss, or Foreman. Yeah, I'm probably leaning towards playing Michael Pittman Jr. there in the full PPR. Fournette probably gets a little bit less utilization. Jahan Dotson could be in that argument, but probably sees less overall targets in that circumstance. So yeah, it's probably Michael Pittman Jr. there. Christian McCaffrey or Najee Harris. I'm afraid about the snaps for Christian McCaffrey and Elijah Mitchell return. At this point, I mean, it is tough for me to tell you. Yeah, I will never tell you not to play Christian McCaffrey. I can't. It's not in my system. So if you're going to play Najee Harris, go for it. He's a highly ranked player, but over Christian McCaffrey would be tough to do so. Juan says, my league is combining the first and second place winnings, then splitting it in 4 ways. 2x for currently winning team, 1x for opposing team, and 1x for the team that wins this week. Interesting. Okay, again, anything that your league can agree upon. I think the way of going about this, especially with the way that we're going to kind of deal with these kind of situations, hopefully it never happens again, but if a game ever gets canceled for any other reason, it's good to set precedent within your league, especially if these are your league mates that you play with multiple years. If you can set precedent right now in terms of how you want to establish it for the future and use this rule for future circumstances, that's fine. But I know it, because it's week 17, it is a little bit trickier to kind of determine it because there isn't a follow-up week, but as long as there's some sort of kind of circumstance here. Visions was saying Moss, Elijah Mitchell, Treylon Burks, or Rashid Shaheed. In a full PPR, I'd like to play one of those 2 wide receivers in comparison. So if I had to pick one, I'd probably play Treylon Burks. Yeah, I'll play Treylon Burks and then Rashid Shaheed, and then I'd follow it up with Moss and then Elijah Mitchell in a full PPR. Let's see here. Darnold or Jerick McKinnon in the Superflex? Oh my God, Jordan. I probably just play Darnold there. It's kind of hard to sit McKinnon, but it's tough not to play a quarterback in that circumstance. Richard Hayward says, comment up. Okay. Richard says, hey man, thanks for all the help this year. Championship round, full PPR. At tight end, start Njoku or Knox. I'll play Knox there. Follow up, Zay Jones or Tyler Algier. In a full PPR, that's a tough one. I probably am going to still play Tyler Algier there. And the final question is, let's see here. What were you saying? He says, thinking Zay Jones because T-Law will probably feed for incentives. I don't know if they have incentives in mind. I think they're probably leaning towards the idea of, hey, we have to win this game. The only issue that I have with Zay Jones is like, okay, he could be a great player with 6 catches, 70 receiving yards, be a 13-point play. If he scores a touchdown, incredible, fantastic week. I just don't know if he's going to be able to outscore Tyler Algier, who I'm expecting is like a probably 80% chance he falls into the end zone. He's going to get himself probably 20 or more touches within the game on the ground through the air. Probably finish. Yeah, it's going to be tough. It'll probably be close. I'm just slightly leaning towards the direction of Algier. If Zay Jones scores a touchdown, then that's all she wrote. He probably outscores him, but until then, I'll probably still lean with Algier. Big Geo says, I have Higbee at my tight end. Flex Ingram. Wait, what is this? I have Higbee. Sorry, that's not Higbee. My dyslexia is kicking in. I have a Biggie at tight end. Flex Evan Ingram, Kittle, Zay Jones, Miles Sanders. So tight end and flex, if I'm starting two of these options, it's probably Kittle with Sanders. Yeah, it's Kittle with Sanders there. Cedric says, choose three between Christian McCaffrey, Saquon, Walker, Etienne, and Najee. I would play Christian McCaffrey, Walker, and Najee. Thank you. Let's see here. Trey Day says, start Darren Waller or Dalton Schultz. I'll play Darren Waller there. Juan, glad I can help. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Donald says, my starters. Okay, I'm assuming your questions or your follow-up is coming in soon. Where are we at here? Okay, we took care of that. Awesome. Perfect. Josh earlier was saying full PPR. I need 2 running backs and a wide receiver, and a flex. We have Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Garrett Wilson, Christian Watson, Brandon Ayuk, Jerick McKinnon, Miles Sanders, Kenneth Walker, Travis Etienne, Travis. Okay, so in your case, Josh, I'm playing Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson as wide receiver 1 and 2. I am playing Kenneth Walker and Miles Sanders as RB1 and 2. And in your flex, in a full PPR scoring format, I'm probably playing Garrett Wilson there. Send it. Actually, you know what? Scratch that. In a full PPR, I'd play Jerick McKinnon over Sanders. So it'd be Jefferson, Chase, McKinnon, Walker, Wilson. Thank you. KJ sends in a question, says, Christian Watson or Deebo Samuel? I'll play Deebo there. The issue that I have with Christian Watson is that he didn't even get a full practice by the time we got to Friday. And Deebo Samuel had multiple full practices this week. So the potential for a re-injury with Christian Watson is a little bit higher. And that risk in itself kind of leans me away from him back in the direction of Deebo, in which they can use him as a running back, as a receiver. Doesn't really matter. He has the potential there. Your follow-up concern question was you don't know how much they're going to play. Yeah, Deebo is the question mark because they could mount a lead there against Arizona and then just not play him for the second half. There's a reality in which that exists. We just don't know how much that's going to really be a guarantee. But the issue that I have with Christian Watson is his injury. And until that gets cleared up in some sort of circumstance, I probably just continue to lean with Deebo at this current time. Anonymous says, hey, Andrew, have Andrews at tight end, but kind of want to throw in Ingram over him. Should I play both? Well, right now I have Evan Ingram ranked higher than him, so I don't mind that at all. As to playing them both in this question, you'd have to take out Aaron Jones. Nah, I'd just play Ingram and Aaron Jones there, and you're fine. Let's see here. Patrick says, any PrizePicks love? Yeah, let's figure this out right now. Let me answer a couple more of these questions that were sent in, and then we'll get over there right before this game starts. KZR Golf says, Eckler, Algier, Jacobs, Kenneth Walker, Amari, Christian Watson, pick 3. Worried about Eckler sitting? Yeah, so we're going to have to wait and see what happens with Eckler. As of right now, we know that we're going to play Eckler, Jacobs, KW3, so Kenneth Walker the third, as your 3 picks. If, in fact, tomorrow we get into a situation where, the Baltimore Ravens win and Austin Eckler is not going to play or is going to be in a limited, capacity, you'd have to probably go and pick up someone like, it would probably be smart to go pick up Josh. Actually, you could pick up Joshua Kelly, or you could just pivot to Christian Watson at that point and be fine. Spinal Samurai says, I won my league 2 years in a row because of you. Thanks for your weekly advice. Thank you very much. I appreciate that, Spinal. Glad I can help in any way. Derek Stevens says, in a full PPR, I have Goddard or Waller, Swift or DJ Moore. In a full PPR, Goddard or Waller. I'll take Waller over Goddard in a full PPR. Swift or DJ Moore, I'll take DJ Moore in a full PPR. Thank you. Okay, let's see here. We're going to go ahead and we're going to transition to talking about some PrizePick entries going into the week. So let's do that right now before this game begins, shall we? Alrighty, let's do that. And then let's turn on the display capture. Boom. All right. So as you guys can see to the right side of the screen, we are here via PrizePicks. If you guys haven't checked them out already, there's a link down in the description. Again, the entire point in the entire game of PrizePicks is picking more or less on given player statistics. For example, the current number for Patrick Mahomes 17 minutes prior to this game beginning is at 319.5 passing yards. You can theoretically pick more or less on it when you put together a sequence of different player prospects, picking more or less on their statistics, and you can get multiple correct in a given entry. Of course, the potential for your entry doubling, tripling 5 times, 10 times its overall investment begins to rack up. So in regards to some of these players and what I typically expect, I mean, these numbers are decent. The expectation is like, okay, Patrick Mahomes has the potential to really sling it. And especially if they're going to be in a circumstance where they're trying to break Peyton Manning's record, he could very easily break this by 100 yards and be perfectly fine. But I'm more or less looking for players like Josh Jacobs, Pacheco to kind of invest in today's games. Now, I'm actually curious, do we have a rushing touchdown from Derrick Henry at all today? Let me see here. Actually, if I just type in Derrick Henry, let me see here, Derrick Henry. Does he have anything that has to do with the touchdown? All right, so I'm probably taking this and accompanying it with every single play that I put forth here, just for future reference. So let's look at some of these players in regards to today's game. Isaiah Pacheco with 9.5 receiving yards. Jacobs with 16.5. That's not bad. Jerick McKinnon with 37.5. Is that an achievable number? Most likely, especially against this team. Jerick McKinnon, how many receptions has he gotten in the last couple weeks here? Where is McKinnon's number? Maybe he doesn't even have any. Let's see here. Jerick McKinnon. So he's got a couple numbers here. So he's got 13 fantasy points, which in a full PPR seems like an automatic. I mean, that's probably the take there. You just don't even worry about yardage as a whole, and you just go with the total fantasy points. If he doesn't score a touchdown, it's really difficult for him to surpass this number, but at this point, Jerick McKinnon seems like he's a touchdown guy. If not, at least he'll be able to get enough yardage to be in this conversation based on the volume of receptions that he's going to garner. So I'm okay with this number. Let me see here. What else do we have in terms of this game? Davante Adams, 78.5 receiving yards. It seems like it's a pretty safe number. Does he have a reception number, though? He doesn't. Let me see here. Davante Adams. Davante, 16 fan. Oh, he does have 6 receptions. That's risky, actually. Now that I'm thinking about it, that seems like it's a risky play. It's probably 78.5 receiving yards of the group. I might not stick with it because it's, again, in that like fringe line of where it could technically break. Let me see here. What is Darren Waller at? I'll take Darren Waller. That's not a bad play at all. Especially considering, as of late, Kansas City has really gotten torched by a lot of these overall tight ends. It seems like Darren Waller's probably even the safer play than Davante Adams. I'm just going to remove Adams from that overall play. So if I pick more on all 3 of these, and then I try to just add a couple legs to this, maybe field goals made, Carlson. I feel like 2 is kind of an automatic. We'll take Carlson there. We'll go more. Where are we at? We're at 4 plays here out of the bunch. Where's the rushing attempt totals? Derrick Henry, okay, we've already put him into 1. So that's not something that I want to continue with. Let's see here. Passing attempts. Do we have Trevor Lawrence, 34.5? That seems like it's a tough number to potentially surpass, especially if he's efficient today. Let's see here. Rushing yard total. Can Josh Jacobs surpass this number? I mean, I would have to venture to say yes. So this is probably, okay, so I'm kind of leaning towards this, right? Derrick Henry at a touchdown of any sort of capacity. Again, like we've mentioned in the past, I mean, where's the overall touchdown number? Wait, why is it? I think it's, where the heck did it go? That's passing touchdowns. Here it is. Derrick Henry, in terms of touchdowns, 3 consecutive games. Going into this game, it's probably an automatic here. Especially if they're going to score in any sort of capacity, it's going to be on the ground. So Henry will take. Jerick McKinnon, I'm positive enough, in a full PPR, should be able to surpass 13 fantasy points. Darren Waller, 38 receiving yards, seems pretty achievable. Daniel Carlson with 2 field goals made. I'm fine with that as well. Let me see here. Is there field goal? There's kicking points. What does kicking points look like? 6. So theoretically, if he kicks a 50-yard field goal and then he makes a PAT or 2, he probably surpasses that. it's probably safer just to take the kicking points instead of 2 field goals. Because if they only score 1 field goal, but they're able to make it a 50-yard field goal and you get the points for, yeah, that's probably the safer of the bunch. So 6 points in terms of kicking. Josh Jacobs is fine there. Okay. I think that's a pretty decent play. How much is that? That's 10x. Okay. Let's go $10 on the 10x. That's kind of what I'm leaning towards in this regard. Derrick Henry, Jerick McKinnon, Darren Waller, Josh Jacobs, Daniel Carlson. If we were to talk about overall plays for the specific game of the afternoon where is Evan Ingram? That's my question. We were talking about this yesterday. Evan Ingram at this number seems pretty fair, and so does Zay Jones. These are 2 guys that should very easily be able to surpass these numbers. If not, I mean, I think, Chigoziem Okonkwo and both him and Austin Hooper could be able to surpass this. But I think Evan Ingram's probably the safest of the bunch here. If you're going to put him alongside someone like Derrick Henry and just run like a 2-play entry, which could be safe. Okay, let me get back to answering some of these questions. Again, if you guys are interested in checking out PrizePicks, there's a link down in the description. You can use promo code Andrew. When you use the promo code of Andrew, ANDREW, my name, your first time deposit is immediately doubled up to $100. So it's a 100% deposit match. If you guys are interested, check that out today. Again, link is in the description. Appreciate it. All right, let me get to answering some of these questions once again. That's not the right that's not the right button. Let's go back here, putting the rankings back on screen, answering some of your guys' questions. Josh Jacobs has the motivation to play a great game. His dad just had a heart. Yeah, I read that earlier. That's crazy. Hopefully all is well with his father and everything went well in terms of the surgery that took place. Big Geo, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Yeah, if you guys could do me a solid, click that like button, get us over 100 likes. That'd be greatly appreciated. Hey, unrelated, but what song do you use in your intro? The intro song is called Double Helix. You might be able to find it on YouTube. It is a part of the YouTube. I think what is the phrase for? I think it's a part of their non-copyright music. So as a creator on the platform, I can use the song without having to worry about having to pay royalties or anything of that nature. Constantino says, salutations, homie. PPR, sit 1, Chubb, Walker, Jones, Akers. If I'm sitting one out of the group, it's probably sitting Aaron Jones there. I'd like to play Walker and Akers first and foremost out of the bunch. And then if it's just a toss-up between Chubb and Akers, in a full PPR, I'd rather play Jones. In a half PPR standard, I'd rather play Chubb. Thank you. Let's see here. Appreciate that, Gio. Thank you. Let's see here. Algier or Garrett Wilson, the flex half PPR. Algier is probably the safer play in a half PPR. In a full PPR there, BLA, I'd probably play Garrett Wilson. But in a half, Algiers is the guy that I'm leaning towards. Donald, what's up? Richard says, wide receiver 1 and 2 between Coop, Mike Williams, Zay Jones, Deebo Samuel, Dotson. Again, rankings on screen. Hopefully we'll be able to lean you in the right direction. Out of the group of wide receivers that you've mentioned, the highest ranked of the bunch, I have Zay Jones and Mike Williams. So that's where I'd kind of lean towards. Thank you. Let's see here. Can't decide between Jonathan Williams, Mostert, and Zach Moss. With Barkley potentially out. Yeah. So of the available options, right? Jonathan Williams could be of value, and he's going to have a high volume of opportunity. This is probably a circumstance to where I'm going to probably tell you to come back tomorrow. I have to actually go and take a little bit of a deeper look in regards to what I'm going to do with those players in regards to how much opportunity he could potentially get in comparison to a Mostert, because really I do expect Mostert to get a lot of opportunity when going up against the Jets with Skylar Thompson, a quarterback. It is not going to be a game in which they can throw the ball 40 times. They can't. So they're going to have to run it probably upwards of 20 plus times, if not 25, 30 times. And hopefully that'll be the case in terms of giving Mostert that opportunity to at least be fantasy relevant in that regard. But tomorrow I'll probably have a better idea as to where I'm going with that. Just a little bit uncertain. The reason why I have Jonathan Williams where I have him is because I'm trying to play a little bit conservative until I kind of get a better sense as to what kind of utilization we expect to see from him. Donald says, starting Geno, Swift, Jones, Murray, JJ, AJ Brown, T. Higgins. My bench is Zach Moss, Jonathan Williams, Justin Herbert. Any changes? I would, at this point, let me see here really quickly. Week 18 NFL. Justin Herbert probably would only play in your team's circumstance if, in fact, yeah. Okay, so here's the idea. So tomorrow, If in fact the Baltimore Ravens beat the Cincinnati Bengals and the Chargers have to play to win that game, I would play Herbert over Geno Smith. If we get to the afternoon slate tomorrow and the Bengals beat the Ravens and the Chargers are already confirmed to have the number 5 seed, at that point you would play Geno because they both play at the same time. You have the ability to pivot there. So as for your follow-up question, in terms of anything else I would change within your starting roster, there, Donald, I wouldn't. I would rather play Latavius Murray and Aaron Jones and DeAndre Swift over those 2 bench running backs that you had there. So you're good to go. Josh says, Jerick McKinnon, Sanders, ETN, full PPR. I'll play Jerick McKinnon over Sanders in a full PPR. That's fine by me. In a full PPR, it would go McKinnon, Sanders, ETN in that order. Thank you. I wish they really passed the ball more to ETN. For the amount of time that Trevor Lawrence really did dump it off to ETN in college, it is a shame how much ETN is kind of getting screwed over the course of the last couple, weeks here in terms of the volume of opportunity he's given overall and the lack of potential rushing upside that he's had in some of these contests. The fact that they aren't transitioning that into receiving upside for him, getting him more involved is unfortunate. But hopefully maybe in the future we could see more targets go in his direction in future seasons. We'll see. Hey Andrew, defensive ranking. Sure, let's go over that. Let me just answer Big Gio's question. Says I need to mix in Algier and Pacheco. I'll play Algier and mix in there. Thank you. Defensive rankings for this week. We have number 1 Eagles, 2 is 49ers, 3 is Cowboys, 4 is Vikings, 5 is Seahawks, 6 is Jaguars, 7 is Jets, 8 is the Bills, 9 is the Chargers, 10 is the Bengals, 11 is the Steelers, and 12 is the Dolphins. Thank you. Silver Soul Jones says, how many leagues did you win? 5. 5 championships this year. Pretty good. Silver Soul, you won 4? Congratulations. How many did you play in, though? That's the question. How many did you play in? And how many of them were impacted by that final game? That's also another question. Is Pittman or Dotson the better option in the flex this week? Depends on scoring format. I think Michael Pittman in a full PPR, probably the better option there. In a half PPR, I'll lean towards playing Jahan Dotson. The only reason I say that as such is because I do believe that Jahan Dotson, naturally, based on his utilization down in the red zone, is a better red zone threat, has more touchdown upside. And with that being taken into account, when there isn't as much value in terms of receptions, I'll lean towards the projection of him having the idea of potentially falling into the end zone, and if he does, being a better play than Pittman outside of a full PPR scoring format there. Let's see here. PPR, Kirk or Juju? I'd play Christian Kirk this week. Thank you, Robert. Ibrahim says, how many leagues were you in? So the charity league doesn't count because that one was, that thing ended, the playoffs started in week 12. So by the time I got there, my team was already cooked. But anyway, charity league, that's in itself. That was Scott Fishbowl, if you guys have heard of that. My team, by the way, that team that I had for the charity league, Justin Jefferson, fantastic. Actually, my first 3 picks were Jonathan Taylor, Justin Jefferson, and DeAndre Swift in a super flex format. I had also Breece Hall. So 3 of my 4 primary players that were expected to play, well, I had Jared Goff. He carried me at quarterback. I wasn't really worried about that. But 3 of my 4 primary players in that league, injured, cooked. It is what it is. Otherwise, I probably would have ran the table at least a little bit further in Scott Fishbowl. But overall total, 13 regular leagues, 5 championships. I'll take it. It's fine by me. Derek Stevens says in a question, says, in a full PPR, Goddard or Waller? I'll take Waller there. Swift or DJ? Okay, we already took care of that one. Never mind. We're good to go. I had a panic attack. I was like, did I miss Derek's question? Let's see here. Robert says, do you think Jarrett Stidham will go over 15 fantasy points today? He should. Yes. I think, if he throws for 2 passing touchdowns and 220 yards and he doesn't throw a handful of interceptions, he should be able to. Why? Is that a PrizePick entry? Let me see here. Where's fantasy points in terms of PrizePicks? Fantasy score. It's not a bad play. I don't think it's a bad play overall. That's not the right one. It's this one. Like overall, that's not a bad play in my mind. Look, this is more likely to occur. You know what I mean? Like Kadarius Toney going over 7 points is more in line. Yeah, I think probably Kadarius Toney is probably more in line. I don't actually mind putting Kadarius Toney alongside of like Derrick Henry. Where's Derrick Henry's touchdown? And then lining that up with, let's see here. Is anybody in this? I'll take Evan Ingram there. Let's go more on all three of these. Let's see how it goes. Roll the dice a little bit on that. Okay, let me get back to some of these questions. Boom. Let's go ahead, click that, and then we'll go back here. Perfect. Yeah, he should be able to go over. I mean, again, he's got to score 2 touchdowns though. That's the contingency. Jonathan says, "Hey Andrew, I want to let you know that your channel has been my secret weapon. You've led me to 2 championships in a row and another championship final this year. Thank you, Jonathan. I'm glad I can help in any sort of way as your secret weapon." Anonymous says, Andrew, why is that? Oh man, I've been sick all week and it has been tough to record and talk. Andrew, any / all of them for money? That's great. Congrats on 5 championships. Yeah, all of them are for money. So yeah, all of them are. They all have. So some of them are obviously more. I guess the right term would be frivolous in terms of the buy-in. Some of them are kind of crazy, right? And then the others are a little bit more modest. But all of it is just for fun anyway. Like the people that I play with, I've played with multiple years, right? So like I'm comfortable with these people, just being able to at least, buy in and keep it fun. So I'm not really too worried. I definitely got to play in less leagues next year though. I can't play in this many leagues anymore. It's too much. It really is a brain buster, especially when I get to waiver wires and I got to check waivers for every single team. It's just a nightmare. Daniel Blue says, so you think do you think Dalvin Cook will play? Yeah, the expectation is that he will. Now, by the time we get to tomorrow, if anything changes, of course, I'll adjust my rankings. But as of right now, yes, the expectation is that he will play, and he'll probably play, I'd say 2.5 to 3/4 of that game. You think Brees / Javonte will be worth a pick in the first 3 rounds next year? No, I don't believe so. I think the information that we have been granted in terms of experience based on what we have seen from injuries such as ACLs that have taken place to Saquon Barkley, J.K. Dobbins, Dalvin Cook over the course of the last couple of years. Running backs that have ACL injuries come back the following season and are a shell of themselves. It takes about 2 years to get back to your former self. So I don't expect Breece Hall and or Javonte Williams to be worth a top 3 or a first round, second round, or third round pick until 2024. And my mind could change on that if, in fact, I see something different. And, these guys are superhumans. They're younger. But still, again, when Dalvin Cook, sustained his injury the following year after, really still had to find his footing. Same thing with Saquon. Same thing now with J.K. Dobbins. Yes, they'll have themselves every now and then good performances, but overall, they're not going to be themselves until they can have a full year of time to play, get, more confidence back in that knee, and then, of course, strengthen the muscles that surround it to a capacity to where they're confident and in full going, just like how Saquon went from last year looking like he couldn't be helped to this year looking like the best running back in the league, right? Luis says, took your advice last week, played Gabe Davis and Juju over Devontae Adams and Mike Evans. Needless to say, lost championship. Apologies. Listen, I tried my best. You played Gabe Davis over Devontae Adams? Was that even in my rankings last week? I'm actually curious. I'm going to go check. I had Gabe Davis over Devontae Adams? I have a hard time thinking that's the case. So let's go see. Last weekend, let's go. My rankings. Sunday morning. Let's look at this. I did not have Gabe Davis ahead of him. So I had Juju 1, Mike Evans 2, Devontae Adams 3, Gabe Davis was not even on the list. So at least Mike Evans was going to be suggested there. So I can't take all the blame, right? I don't know why you would play Gabe Davis there, my man. Should I start KJ Osborne over Justin Jefferson? Super worried about the Vikings benching him. No. You shouldn't worry about it. I'm fine with it. You should be okay. How much do you think Eckler plays, considering starting Algier over him? The idea of Eckler is purely based on whether or not the Baltimore Ravens win. Once we get there, we'll have an idea. But until then, you kind of have to just keep Eckler rostered along with Joshua Kelly, and at that point, you can make a pivot. Donald says, thanks for doing these streams. Can you throw up kicker and defense rankings, please? Yeah, I don't have the graphic for it, but I can mention them once again before we close out today's stream. Let's see here. In terms of kicker and defense rankings, all right, so let's go over this one final time before we close out the stream. Eagles number 1, 49ers 2, Cowboys 3, Vikings 4, Seahawks 5, Jaguars 6, Jets 7, Bills 8, Chargers 9, Bengals 10, Steelers 11, Dolphins 12. As for kicker rankings, Prater 1, Maher 2, Gould 3, Myers 4, Patterson 5, Carlson, who's playing right now, 6, Bass 7, McPherson 8, Tucker 9, Crosby 10, Badgley 11, and Eddie Pinheiro 12. Thank you. All right. Everybody thought Devontae Adams was going to throw up a dud with Carr leaving and Stidham. Yeah, I mean, I purely thought that was going to be the case. It wasn't even just like, hey, Stidham's coming in, Devontae Adams is expected less points. It's also the fact that Stidham's coming in and they're taking on the 49ers defense, and then they decide, hey, you know what? We're going to play our best offensive game of the season. It's like, all right, well, if you guys want to do that, so be it. That's the unpredictable nature of fantasy, right? Doob says, Dak or Rodgers. I'll play Dak Prescott 10 times out of 10 over Rodgers this week. Thank you. All right, guys. I do appreciate you guys coming out, supporting the channel. I'll be back tomorrow morning again from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time with updated rankings in terms of some of these players. Hopefully, we'll have a little bit more of a definitive idea as to some of these players specifically playing. Once we have a little bit more information, hopefully some of these NFL insiders can go, digging and gather that information for us. And once they do, it'll give us a little bit of a better idea as to how we can approach Week 18 in order to close out a very successful 2022 year. Thank you, everybody, for watching. I'm going to cue the music. Enjoy today's games. Good luck in today's contest. And until tomorrow morning, I will see you guys. Thank you very much. Have a good one. Peace. Where is the thumbnail? There it is. See you guys.